Okay, so you want to own a Formula One team. You picture it already. The garage doors rolling up before dawn, the smell of hot rubber and fuel, a machine worth $20 million firing to life, while 100 people in your colors move like a single organism. You imagine your name on the pit wall, a driver you pay a fortune sliding into the cockpit, and that moment on Sunday, when your car crosses the line first, and a stadium full of people roars for something you built. This is the most glamorous business on earth. Billionaires line up for it. Car manufacturers spend fortunes chasing it, and somewhere in the back of your mind, the thought takes hold. If all this money flows through the sport, surely owning a piece of it must be the smartest play a rich person can make. Here's what that picture leaves out. Most of these teams lose money racing. Some of them burn through hundreds of millions a year and finish dead last. And the ones who get rich almost never get rich from winning. Because a Formula One team is not a race team at all. It's one of the last finite franchise slots in global sport, and the racing is just the price of admission. The people who understand that make fortunes. The people who don't just set their money on fire at 300 kilometers an hour. Let me show you why. Because from the outside, Formula One looks like a money printer, and in a sense it is. In 2025, the sport generated nearly $4 billion in revenue, nearly double what it pulled in back in 2018. Fans are pouring in, new races are being added, the television deals keep growing. But here's the number that should stop you cold. Even the smallest, most efficient team at the back of the grid still incinerates roughly $100 million every single year. And the giants, Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull, their annual burn rate hovers around $400 million a year, spent chasing a trophy that only one team out of 10 can actually win. So before you fall in love with the podium, you have to sit with that reality. This is a sport where you can do everything right, hire brilliant people, build a beautiful car, and still spend a fortune to finish exactly nowhere. A glamorous grid position and a profitable business are not the same thing, and almost nobody watching on Sunday can tell the difference. So before you make a single dollar, you have to get in the door, and the door to Formula One is one of the most expensive thresholds in all of business. You can't simply buy a team off the shelf whenever you like, because there are only a fixed number of slots on the grid, and for years there was no room at all. To even join as a brand new 11th team, Cadillac, backed by General Motors, one of the largest car companies on the planet, had to agree to pay what's called an anti-dilution fee, and that fee was locked in at a staggering $450 million. Let that sink in. Nearly $500 million, or more, just for permission to show up. Just to be allowed to then go and spend hundreds of millions more building the actual cars. And that money doesn't even buy you a good team. It buys you an empty slot, a garage, and the right to start losing races against organizations that have been perfecting this for decades. If you thought the price of the cars was the scary part, you haven't been paying attention. The cars are almost a rounding error next to the cost of the seat at the table. So let's go inside the team, because this is where the real spending lives, and this is where most people completely misunderstand the business. To stop the richest teams from simply buying every championship, the sport introduced something called the cost cap back in 2021. It's a hard limit on how much a team is allowed to spend on the performance of the car. In 2025, that cap sat at around $135 million, and for 2026, it rises to $215 million. Now, you might hear that and think, great, there's a ceiling, the spending is under control, my costs are protected. But here's the trap, and it's a brutal one. That cap does not cover everything. It covers car development and race operations, but it deliberately leaves out some of the most expensive things you'll ever pay for. Your driver's salaries, outside the cap, your 3 highest paid staff, the brilliant, irreplaceable people who actually make the car fast, outside the cap, marketing, hospitality, all of it, outside the cap. So the headline number you see is not your real bill. Your real bill is that number, plus a superstar driver who might cost you tens of millions, plus a genius engineering boss, plus everything it takes to fly a 100-person operation to 24 races on 6 continents. The cap isn't a safety net, it's a floor you build an even bigger tower of spending on top of. And here's where it gets worse, because there's a second cap you probably didn't even know existed. The engines have their own separate spending limit, rising to $190 million for 2026. Because building a modern Formula One power unit is so astonishingly expensive that the sport had to cap that too. For 2026, the entire engine architecture is being torn up and rebuilt. A new hybrid system, sustainable fuel, a completely different design philosophy, which means every team on the grid is pouring money into reinventing the single most complicated part of the car, all at the same time, with no guarantee theirs will be the one that works. If you're a smaller team and you can't afford to build your own engine, you rent one from a manufacturer. And even that costs you around $17 million a season, plus your independence, because now your entire year depends on someone else's hardware. So picture your spreadsheet now. A car cap in the hundreds of millions. An engine bill in the hundreds of millions. Drivers and stars stacked on top, entirely uncapped. And a nearly $500 million entry fee, already gone, before you turned a wheel. You are hemorrhaging money from every direction, and you still haven't won a thing. So who on earth would sign up for this? This is the question that breaks people's brains about Formula One, and the answer is the entire secret of the business. Because while the teams are losing money racing, the value of simply owning one has been exploding. Here's the number that changes everything. In 2025, the average Formula One team was worth about $3.5 billion, up nearly 50% in a single year, and more than double what the average team was worth just 2 years earlier. Ferrari alone is valued at around $6.5 billion, Mercedes close behind near $6 billion. And these aren't teams that suddenly started printing operating profits. They're teams whose franchise value is rising because of one simple, powerful force: scarcity. There are only 10 of these slots in the entire world, soon to be 11 in 2026, and the sport keeps making it clear there's no room for any more. When something generates billions in revenue and only 11 people on Earth are allowed to own a piece of it, the pieces themselves become priceless, regardless of whether they win on Sunday. And that reframes the whole thing. You're not spending $400 million a year to win a trophy. You're spending it to hold on to an asset that's appreciating faster than almost anything else in sports. And once you see that, the entire business flips inside out, because you realize the racing was never really the product. Look at what actually happened with Williams. A private investment group called Doralton bought the Williams team back in 2020. A year the team was so uncompetitive it scored 0 points across the entire season. 0. By almost any sporting measure, they bought a failure. But by 2025, that same team was valued at over $2 billion, more than 10 times what they paid for it. They didn't win a championship. They didn't need to. They bought a scarce, finite franchise slot at the bottom of the market and simply held it while the entire sport's value lifted every boat in the harbor. That is the real game, and it's why billionaires and investment funds keep circling Formula One, even though the racing itself, on paper, looks like a cash furnace. The trophy is the fantasy. The franchise is the fortune. The people who confuse the two overpay for glory and wonder why they're broke. The people who understand it are buying appreciating assets that happen to come with a podium attached. So can owning a Formula One team actually make you money? Yes, but almost never the way the fantasy promises. The teams that thrive don't just chase performance. They build a business underneath the racing. Take the prize money. Every year the commercial owners of the sport distribute over $1 billion back to the teams, around $1.25 billion in 2025, based largely on where you finish. Ferrari topped that table with an estimated $277 million, and part of that is a special bonus they receive simply for being the only team to have raced in the sport every single year since 1950. They get paid tens of millions just for their history. On top of the prize money comes sponsorship, which for a front-running team can mean a title sponsor worth $75 to over $100 million a year, plus engine deals, plus merchandise, plus hospitality. The winners stack these revenue streams on top of the rising franchise value until the operating losses stop mattering. They didn't win by spending the most on the car. They won by treating the team as what it truly is, a media and franchise business wearing a racing suit. And that's the truth almost nobody says out loud about this sport. The romance of Formula One is completely real. The speed, the danger, the genius, the roar of a home crowd when your car takes the flag. But the economics of Formula One are a cold, ruthless spreadsheet, and the two things live side by side. You can be moved to tears by a perfect lap and still know that the lap itself is not where the money is. The owners who lose everything are the ones who buy the romance and forget the spreadsheet, who spend like the trophy is the prize. The owners who build dynasties are the ones who can hold both truths at once, love the race, but never once confuse it with the business. Because here's what you're actually buying when you sign for a Formula One team. You are not buying a shot at the championship. You are not buying a reliable, effortless profit machine that pays you back every quarter. You are buying one of the 10, soon to be 11, rarest franchise slots in all of global sport. A finite, appreciating asset in a world that keeps minting new billionaires and won't make any more of these seats. The racing is the cost of admission. The losses are the membership fee, and the real return sits quietly on the balance sheet, growing double digits a year, waiting for the day you decide to sell. Master that one truth, and Formula One can be one of the greatest wealth creation machines a person can own. Ignore it, chase only the podium, and you'll become just another name on a long list of people who spent a fortune, won nothing, and finally understood the business the moment they sold the team to someone smarter, for a price that made them weep.